Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Asura's Bride, which is called, actually, I don't know what it's called. It's called You Want a something with a B.
You want a battle.
Want a battle. Okay. The computer does not read it all. And today we have Josalynn, Teri, and Vita. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Teri. I'm from Connecticut, and you might know me on Patreon and Facebook as Lady Libras. Oh, and also AO3.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, there's somewhere else.
Yeah, I was just finishing Hello Neighbor. I thought it was so cute. I loved it.
Hi, I'm Josalynn. I'm 36. I live in Canada, Quebec to be specific, and I don't have a Patreon.
Hi, I'm Vita. Victoria is my full name. I go by 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏, both on Instagram and Facebook. It's my name on Patreon as well. And I'm in my late 20s, and I'm a fourth-year medical student. Yeah, looking forward to my first actual paycheck.
Amen. We all are.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for being here. And Teri, why don't you start us off?
So we start this episode. It says, "I know this flag," and they're standing out in front of a campsite. And I thought this was pretty funny when we go down a little bit, because like you think they would have been noticed way before this, but they're not. So it says, I know about it because," and it's a flag with peony, which is also the tattoo that's on Ulaan's front of his neck. And we see the 2 guard towers and some fencing, and they're standing there in front of it. And this episode, by the way, I should mention this earlier, it's black and white. So we're not going to do a lot of color theory with this one. But it says, "Once was brought back to our palace courtyard by surviving troops and burned." So Yuwa's connotation with this is that this is an enemy flag, obviously. And now she's trying to connect the dots with like, wait a minute. So to have a tattoo of the kingdom's crest on display in such a vulnerable yet prominent area, it's like an outright declaration of war to the enemy. So I think she's like, am I the enemy? Is he the enemy?
It's almost a little of, it feels like a little of both, because like they burned their flag, and then there's the meaning behind peonies being like, you know, honor, bravery, prosperity, like things like that. And then they just, you know, come in and take over the land. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she goes, "This is my kingdom. Come at me if you dare." And only one person would be allowed to wear it in such a manner. And then she says, Asura, which I looked up, and it's like, I think I wrote that it's like a demon or a god, right? So when I was thinking about this, I'm like, is he some sort of like, you know, I don't know, urban legend or something, like a boogeyman for like Yuwa's people, like this demon nickname that he has? "You're King Asura, the great warrior king of the north, the northern demon Asura," right? So I was like, oh, she's like, oh, that guy. Right.
And I feel like she's not looking at him because, you know, they were having a moderately good time together, mixed bag, you know, antagonistic liking relationship before this, but now she's finding out that he's like the enemy, and she's not looking at him because this is an unsettling, unhappy discovery. But she's pretty clever.
It's like, oh great, I think the enemy's hot. Right?
Well, I mean, even in the last episode when they're kind of like in each other's arms, there's trust there. Like she tried to save them both, like from the attack and everything. And now it's like she's like piecing it together that, oh, this guy is, you know, this boogeyman or whatever. So
he's not just some random soldier that she ran across that helped her. Yeah.
Especially all the stories that they've heard too about him. It hasn't been pretty, obviously. So she's just putting those pieces and trying to reconcile, oh, this is not working out with what I thought he was from the night before, considering what everyone else around me has told me about him otherwise.
Yeah.
And so after she says that, the northern demon Asura, he says nickname. And he just kind of looks over at her. And we were talking about this before we started about, even though this is black and white, how, and I'm zooming, and I'm like, Rah! Even though this is black and white, you can still see like the intensity of his eyes and like how it glows. So
I think that the way that the expression on his face to me looks like he's nervous about what's going to come next, because he knows the reputation that he has. And obviously their kingdoms are at war also. So like, obviously, like they're not going to have nice things to say about him. And I think he's nervous about her reaction, justifiably so. And, you know, he also doesn't want to break the little bond that they have created.
Sure. And he's probably also wondering exactly what she's heard, even though he, you know, probably has an idea. But, you know, there's going to be a lot of spin in it and a lot of like exaggeration and things like that, with his reputation. So
and he also does that, you know, like it's, you know, how Torah just throws things off with like a little joke and snark. Like he doesn't respond to the gravity of what she levels at him. You know, he should be saying like, yes, what have you heard about me or whatever, but he just says nickname.
Yeah, like one word.
I was going to say too, because he looks very composed and he doesn't look, you know, like he's overreacting. He's just like nickname. You know what I mean? Like internally he might be screaming, but externally he's just like, it's a nickname.
No big deal.
Again, yeah, she's still not looking up, and she's like, if I'd known who you were.
Do you guys hear the music?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll just tell the podcast, I'm at my family's house and whatever, I guess they're having a party downstairs.
Before we started, my husband was working out and he's got like these 40-pound weights, and when he puts them on the floor, it's like boom, and I'm like, it is 6:25. You cannot be doing that anymore. We have to start. And it hears booming from the other room. I'm like, so yeah, I understand. So yeah, so she's not looking at him. If I'd known who you were, and then she grips the bow. She's like, I would rather be left to die in the wilderness. You vile tyrant, bow on his injured shoulder. Which to me, I was like, ow! But I'm like, that's very clever of her to know exactly where to hit. So she's fierce. She's a little bit fierce, right? And even though she hits him there, he still like doesn't react how you think he probably would. Like a normal person would react getting hit very hard where they're injured, right? And she's panting, looking at him. He's looking away from her and he says, yeah, I'm vile. And it's like his shoulders throbbing. And so, then, is this where I stop?
Yes, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, a little bit.
I
a lot to discuss here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So, like I was saying, I'm like, you would think that he would like react like in anger, right? I'm not saying he would whap her across the head, but grab her to stop her or something. And all he does is he's panting in pain, his shoulders throbbing, and he's not looking at her because he's probably counting to 10 or trying to control himself. He says, yeah, I'm vile. That's remarkable restraint, I think, honestly.
I think maybe like her frustration and anger towards like what happened to her people and everything is just kind of like warranted, right? So he knows that because he was part of the cause probably. So I think it's more like, yes, you know, hit me because I did something bad. And I mean, they, like I said in the previous episode, they were just trusting of each other and whatever. So I think he's kind of letting her in a way.
Also, I think it shows too that he's got a lot of respect for, I don't know if women in general, but for her certainly, because when we get down a little further, like the men in his camp, like how they refer to her and how they talk about her and everything else, just like such a lack of respect for women. And I don't see that coming from him, right? He always shows her a lot of respect. So I think that's just another way it's demonstrated.
I think part of it too, especially when he's like, yeah, I'm vile, he has a very pragmatic perspective of himself. Like he knows who he is. He's not trying to hide any part of him or shy away and not really try to deny it. Cause like, yeah, he agrees I'm not a good person. Like I wasn't trying to be type of thing either. It's just now you know who I am type of thing. This is who I am.
He's a warrior. He's not an angel, right?
Yeah.
I also like that reflected a lot of Tora to me, because Tora also has a lot of self-hatred, and I think Ulaan actually has less self-hatred than Tora has. I think he kind of understands this is what he has to do, and he says that later in the episode. And Tora, I don't think really accepts that about himself. I think he hates himself in many ways, but that definitely reminded me a lot of Tora with that negative self-image. And also Yuwa. So obviously, like, you see her hands shaking with the bow, and she hit him hard enough to crack the bow. So that's a lot.
She cracked it in half, or not cracked it, she broke it.
Yeah.
But you really see like the level of hatred that they had between those countries, where she says she would rather have died in the wilderness, and where she's risking her life basically in attacking the king of the northern kingdom, their enemy, and the guy who could easily kill her either personally or with his soldiers. And like, that's the level of hatred that she has, that she's willing to do all that, even despite whatever personal connection they made. So, I mean, it's just like a very common thing that exists in history, where like countries hate each other, and like some of the enmity is so deep, and sometimes that like it just overrides any humanity and any personal connection, because you're like, oh, you're from the other group, so I must hate you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's something we still see all the time, even in our modern era. Yeah,
I think there's certain things, like some people have utopian visions in their mind, where like, if only we change policies, then humanity will be great and everyone will be prosper. I'm like, no, I just think it's a condition of humanity that it's gonna suck somewhere, some level. So, I don't think we can change that much.
So the guys in the guard tower finally are paying attention to what's going on. And it's like, what's going on down? Oh, it's King Asura on the horns. The king has returned.
I didn't even notice that their king was just like thwacked across the shoulder.
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? Yeah.
Oh, wait, sorry. I think who was supposed to do the second part?
I was
Vita? Supposed to stop. I'll show you how vile I can be. I think that's where I was supposed to stop.
And then
okay, sorry. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure where to stop, so just let me know if I go.
Okay. I'm just looking at the halfway point on my browser. That's all.
Actually, just lost. Yeah, so like Teri was saying, the guards are finally starting to realize, hey, what's going on? And yeah, they don't care that their king just got hit by a woman, which is like, okay, cool, we'll go along with it.
So hard that like I see blood splatter. It's like, it's all right.
Yeah.
Ripped shirt even.
And then even like when he's reproaching her, it's not like he's raising his voice or anything. It's more like, again, this is who I am. Like, if you do it again, like, I'm not going to tolerate it. This is your one and only warning type of thing. But even that, it's I mean, I don't think it's overly assertive. It's just, who wants to get hit? Like, obviously you would not want to get hit and like, hey, say back off to someone. But yeah, as you guys saw, she did hit him hard enough to the point where she reopened his wound. And then it looks like she it just really doesn't want to have anything to do with him and tries to push him away, says no. And at this point, you can see him visibly starting to like get frustrated and annoyed at the whole situation. And he's just trying to really get through to her, like, hey, you gotta calm down. To me, it really does seem like he's just trying to calm her down at this point, since she's heated. You can tell by the bubbles too, where hers are like super jagged and his remain calm. Or, circular.
So I also think the fact that when he says like, I'll show you just how vile I can be, and he pulls her closer at the same time, I think it's a little bit of this like push and pull dynamic with him, where he wants her to be closer to him and he wants her to still like him, but he also, like you said, wants to show who he really is, and he wants to warn her, this is me, and like, if you're gonna like me or be in a relationship with me, you have to know who I am. And the fact that like he just keeps her close and pulls her to him, it's a pretty romantic gesture. I think he is showing her that he likes her. And
it's also
in a way
protective, right? Because now everyone's noticed them, and if she's attacking their king, that puts her in an extremely dangerous position. So he's pulling her in, trying to calm her down, but it's also a protective thing. Like,
yeah, that's true. And then coming,
he's emotionally affected. I think he's the one saying, "Don't you think?" Right, and we don't know what he's gonna say, but it sounds like it'll be some kind of explanation or justification, because he wants her to think, it's kind of like, he wants her to think nicely of him, but like, again, he's doing the, like, let me show you my worst side first. But, and again, it's like the push and pull. It's like, also it reminds me of Tora saying, oh, she'll never have me, she's too good for me. And was still wanting her at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe even that, like you said, was protective, because if she continued to escalate the situation, like, it's not just him that he would have to control, it's everyone else, like the guards seeing that their king is getting abused. He's like, hey, maybe you should chill and like actually think about what you're doing.
If you think of like the royal body in history, like it was sacrosanct, like you did not, abuse the royal body physically. That's just huge no-no throughout history. So the fact that she hit him so hard to break a bow, which is extremely strong, and then reopened his wound, right? And that's definitely abusing the royal body. Yeah. So yeah, dangerous position. Hi, kitty.
Hello.
Aw, so cute.
I have my door shut and I keep hearing scratch, 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 scratch.
Yeah, he's very annoying.
There's definitely a dog that barks every now and then. We'll just casually ignore that.
Yeah, I have a dog too. Yeah.
All right, so continuing on, I don't know how to pronounce this word. Is it 𝗙𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲? 𝗙𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲?
Maybe, I don't know, but I think you're doing fine.
Well, anyway, it sounds like it's a term of endearment from someone who sees him as a younger brother, and we are introduced to him. And he's like, hey, we heard from the scout that they had won the battle that they were in, and that they had sent troops to escort him back, but didn't find him because he looks like he kind of like ditched them and went on his own path. And then, yeah, this was going back into how some of the warriors think about women and how it might not be as respectful. I'm not sure who mentioned that, if it was Teri or Mindy. But yeah, you definitely see what their view is. And you see, I thought this next panel was kind of cute, where you see Ulaan is just like, oh, hey, brother, how are you doing? And then Ua is just kind of like this feral little creature that has to like be contained. And she's like, don't touch me, like let me at him type thing. And they're just super chill and just like, doing their thing.
And the fact that he grabs his wrist, that Ulaan grabs this guy's wrist so he doesn't touch her. Yeah. Her. But yeah, who's this wench? Excuse me? Who's this wench? How dare.
I'm assuming that the kind of that they probably don't have high class women at the camps, like in the barracks. Also, did you notice his haircut? His hairstyle is, kind of like what Poppy does for Tora at Naren at the Regina Speak.
Actually,
the cornrows and the braids.
Like, I was thinking about this and I was thinking, I'm glad that Tora gets his genetics from someone else, because
No, his pointy eyebrows. Who does that look?
It's like, I don't know.
I've already forgotten his name. Oh my God, Pinky Damien? With his eyebrows.
Damien, yeah.
Damien, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Conspiracy theory, this is Damien's ancestor.
That's cute. That's so cute. I want his favorite color to be pink.
You know what? I bet you we can't see his uniform, but really it's pink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then we're going forward and we get this like intense stare from Ulaan, and it's like, okay, yeah, we could linger there if we wanted. Yeah, so we have oh my God, I almost said Tora. We get a really great look from Ulaan just looking at his bro, and bro is like, oh, okay, let me back off here and just like let you do your thing with the girl. Totally respecting the fact that obviously has different intentions. I don't know if it was mentioned before the Wi-Fi cutout, but we were also mentioning how he could just express so much with literally just looking at his colleague, you know, like, hey, back off, we're not calling her that, she's not going to the servants' quarter, none of that. And I think this was just after the internet unfortunately dropped. We are also saying how in the background we also start seeing long live King Asura, all that stuff, and like cheering for him, since it seems like he really has been missing for a couple of days. Especially since there was that troop that was sent to find him originally. So that's like obviously really cool too, where you see like people are actually excited to see him. It's probably a little bit jarring, especially for Uwa, who thinks of him as like this monster, how could he be respected or loved? But here there are people that were actually missing him and cheering for him when he came back.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and also from the fact that this guy, whatever his name is surprised that Ulaan wants to take care of her himself. Clearly, he doesn't usually treat other women like this. They're usually just like, whatever. But you know, he'll put them in the service quarters or whatever. He doesn't. You know, this is unusual treatment. He doesn't take care of them himself.
Yeah.
So then. Yeah, so then we have the next panel where I'm not actually sure who's saying this, if it's brother or Ulaan. I'll take care of Kara this way, your majesty. Oh, it's definitely the brother, never mind. They're on their way to another battle, FYI. So
I like how like FYI, which is like a modern acronym is there.
Your information. Yeah,
I feel like this episode is a little rushed, and there are some things that I think if more time had been spent, it would have been a bit different. But I like it still because it's you're really getting into like the country that he's from and everything. But yeah, it's a bit rushed.
I love how it's rushed but still gorgeous. Like if I was trying to do something rush, it'd be stick figures and like smears of ink everywhere.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful.
Yeah, and it feels more like a manga too without the color.
It does.
And then we just see like this whole big pan out view of, it looks like literally his army, like one of his armies.
No, yeah, that's his army.
And they're all just cheering the same thing. I think it's kind of cool too how you see just how small they are. And it looks like Ulaan and Uwa are just by themselves walking together. And that must be
arm around her.
He's got his arm around her, yeah. It's just zooming. I was like, zoom. Yeah.
Whole time. He's like walking with his arm around her.
Yeah. Arm that's smashed, by the way. His achy shoulder. That's what's around her.
Yeah.
Oh. The sore shoulder.
I know.
Yeah,
romance isn't dead.
Right. I think he's doing it, yes, because he likes touching her, and also probably what you said, to control her and be like, okay, lady, we're walking in front of my whole army now. Better keep temperate.
Yeah, and then you have that next shot where like things are actually starting to like become reality for her. And I think that's just such an interesting expression for her too. It's super fierce, but it also seems kind of calculating, where you can kind of start seeing, okay, she's not only like taking Ulaan's advice to actually start thinking, but I don't know, it feels a little bit more analytical to me too, like more cunning, which I really like.
Yeah, she looks like she's, everyone's saying long live King Asura, long live King Asura, and I think it is going through her head like a little bit of surprise, like how could they like him?
Yeah, like why are they cheering for this demon, like murderer? Yeah.
Should I keep going?
I think yeah. I think till like another few panels, I think.
Yeah, so then they finally take Ulaan and Uwa to a banquet, a feast, which I'm sure they're much appreciated of, especially since they've been out in the wild for a while. And they're finally starting to realize too that he has this wound on his back as well, but it seems like he just completely does not faze him at all, and he doesn't even seem to acknowledge it. Yeah, and then the next panel where he just starts to enter the feast, it seems like there's a lot of work to do too. Everyone's kind of coming up to him and just telling him like, hey, warriors want to meet you. We gotta do this wound on your back. You gotta eat. Sounds like a lot's coming at him at one time when, or maybe, I don't know, he probably just needs to sleep, let's be real. And there we have 𝗚𝗂 just kind of in the background, kind of observing everything. And then they go into the tent for the feast. This was probably his tent too. And yeah, it looks like the general, the chieftain, and the officer all have something that they want to say to him. And then he just kind of closes the door on their face and he's like, nah, I got a woman with me, gotta spend some time with her. And obviously they get that too. They're like, oh, he brought a woman home, we gotta leave him alone, this can wait. Yeah, so they know what's up.
And then talking about like she's not his usual type. He likes him tall and voluptuous.
I thought that was cute.
Yeah, but it's interesting. And yeah, in the next panel, like the fact that they say, you know, oh, a tiny plain woman is still a woman. He's just going to unwind after that intense battle. So it's interesting because, you know, Yuwa perceives herself as not beautiful. And apparently, at least this guy also thinks she's tiny and plain.
Yeah, I don't think he looked really close because yeah, she's tiny, but she ain't plain.
And I feel like even though like we know that Tora is a descendant of them, I feel like Poppy definitely has a lot of the same spirit as 𝗚𝗂, where it's like they're tiny but fierce. It's like the little angry hamster, I feel like really came alive in this episode.
Isn't genetics interesting?
They're not related. It's more like just the spirit is similar.
Oh no, just like what Tora and Ulaan find attractive.
Oh yeah.
Down through the line. It's like the
That's
tiny
so
little angry hamsters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it also these panels also kind of prove that like yeah, he was with other women who like he really didn't care about, and this one is just like it stands out that she's this way, like different from the normal. And yeah, and then like all the past episodes kind of come back and it's just like, yep, like you can see like it was an automatic, like this girl, and you know, let's try to find out about her. And yeah, I like that. I like that this like proves, you know, he didn't care about women before, you know.
I think part of
Like
it
our hero Tora.
Yeah, and for this in particular too, Lily pays particular attention to the eyes, like when they glow, or when he's like in his demonic form or not, or when he's cursed versus not. And I feel like for this too, it's kind of like Tora and Ulaan and just the entire line just see people differently, like more for who they are, like a more at the deeper matter of them. And I think that's also telling for Tora because he does have really unique eyes too. So I think that's a cute little thing too, where they just see the world a little bit differently than everyone else, and maybe in a sense a more pure or more truthful form. And it means that, you know, people that like 𝗚𝗂, who might be plain to other people, are actually really fantastic people once you get to know them and get to the substance of them.
It's almost like they have like laser eyes, right? They can X-ray and see, peel back the layers, and they're super, super, super observant. And yeah, they can just see through all of the chaff, I guess, and just down to the core, like in a nanosecond almost, like boom. It's like when Tora saw Poppy, it's like boom, just instant. You know, he saw exactly who that was. So it's a gift.
Yeah.
Everyone ever read Jane Eyre, so you know, Mr. Rochester describes Jane as, you know, she describes herself and everyone as like, you know, poor and plain and little. I don't think 𝗚𝗂 is plain, but Jane Eyre is definitely is plain. And, you know, and Mr. Rochester has also been prolific before, and he's had other women, but Jane's the one.
Jane's the one. Yeah.
All right, so who reads?
I guess me. So the soldiers say, General, we should ask him about the battle when he's ready to talk about it. For now, station guards outside his tent. The king needs his privacy tonight. Have the royal physician on standby for his back injuries, quite in bad shape. King or not, that man needs to take better care of himself, from which you learn he doesn't really take care of himself. And he says, you'd best keep that to yourself, chieftain, or he'll toss you into the bull pasture again. This guy has some wacky punishments.
Well, it's like not even just like falling face first into like bullshit, literally. It's also like you're about to get gored by a bull.
Yeah.
Have fun. Yeah.
So they're both pretty harsh. They're harsh people, harsh environments, harsh time period. So now we're in the tent and Yuwa is sitting down on the floor. I'm surprised she put herself in that position rather than like standing up and confronting him. Maybe she's just overwhelmed, tired, emotionally distraught. And she says, why didn't you tell me who you were earlier? And Ulaan's looking at her and he's kind of in a defensive position. He's standing there with his arms crossed. So I feel like he's unhappy about her attitude towards him and defensive feeling.
Well, it's also hypocrisy on Yuwa's part too, because she's not telling him who she really is either. Hello.
Yeah, they both have their secrets. Yeah.
But he kind of, I don't know, the power dynamic is a little bit shifted because he took her. I don't think she has any obligation to say anything. Like he took her.
Yeah.
And now he talks back to her in a way that, again, just shows her, he's feeding into her expectations of him. And I think this is also coming from bitterness and like disillusionment. And he says, why should I? This vile tyrant does as he pleases. I'm a goddamn king, your highness. And you like feel the anger and the sarcasm in his voice. And again, he's upset that she views him that way, right? And he's just rubbing it in her face. Like, okay, you view me as a vile tyrant. That's all I am. Sad.
Yeah.
And, and she says, don't call me that. And then also with a lot of sarcasm of her own, she's like, I'm not worthy of this honorific from your majesty, the great Asura himself.
Oh, yeah.
Sassy.
Yeah.
I'll say yes.
You know she doesn't mean that literally.
Yeah, and he gives her like an angry look as well. But now he is able to overcome his anger and his maybe hurt at her perception of him, because he leans down and he goes down to her level and he doesn't have that angry look on his face anymore. And he said, first he says prince, like he's about to say princess, and he says Yuuzhan, and he said, because like you said, he doesn't know who she is yet. And he says, Yuuzhan, look at me. And which is again like a very calm, conciliatory approach. So kudos to him for being able to put aside his internal wounds to speak to her in a way that is more calm and transcendental. And he says, know this, no matter how brutal or cruel I am on the battlefield, that is not me. Oh, and he's touching her hair.
Yeah, her hair. Oh.
So romantic.
Well.
Yeah. That's quite a lot of emotional health from him. Like, really kudos to him for being able to overcome her insult to him and her anger at him and be able to speak to her in that way.
And also trying to make her understand, his true self instead of just what she heard from, the battle. And that's all he is, a killer and and a tyrant and whatever. But this is, this is not him. That's what he's trying to get through to her. Yeah.
Ready for that. She says, how can you say that? And she pulls his hand away. And she said, is it not with your own 2 feet? Is it that you've moved forward to battle with these 2 hands that you've taken all these lives? Because she, again, is, a product of her culture and her kingdom. And he says, no, Yuuzhan, it is my birthright and the weight of thousands upon thousands of my people on my shoulders. It is duty that moves me forward. And I think also, Yuwa is a bit naive, because I think also what he's going to tell her now, at some point, I know a lot of people don't do this, but like at some point you've got to consider that like maybe the other side also has a point. Maybe your side is not the completely moral side that they claim to be. I know it's something I thought about a lot when I was a kid. But I mean, I guess then it is true. A lot of people don't take the perspective of the enemy or the other side. But, he's pointing out the realities there. He says, do not forget the blood of thousands are on the hand of your beloved father, King of Shan. And, and she's probably like, I'm sure they regard her father as a hero. And, he killed bad people, obviously, right? Because we are good and they are bad.
Bad. Yeah.
So this is kind of her first time, it seems like her first time really considering that, along with all the other kings in the 4 regions who have built their empire. If they had been as capable of warfare as I am, it could easily have been more. And it looks like he's getting up at that point, and he says, within the week, I will get someone trusted to escort you back to your kingdom. And she's looking at him with like resentment in her eyes, because it's hard to absorb that. It's hard to reevaluate your moral framing of the world and everything you've known, because, you know, she loves her father, presumably, and she loves her kingdom. So for her to then relook at the morality of everyone she knows and loves, it's not an easy thing.
No. And it's going to take her time to do that. It's not going to be like instantaneously that she's like, oh, yeah. She's got to have to sit on it and let it percolate in her brain and observe some other things before it really starts to make more sense.
Yeah.
And he's leaving because I think, you know, he did reach his limit with how much he can tolerate of like emotional abuse from her. But he tells her, you know, the way he talks now, he talks as though he's defeated and he doesn't think that there's any more hope for a relationship between them. Again, this is like, you know, when couples fight, like you say stupid things to each other and like they don't really mean, you know, maybe like this is something just coming out of anger. He's like, okay, forget it, we're done. You'll go back to your kingdom. Don't worry, you never have to see me again. This is what he's feeling now. I have a feeling, well, it's not what he really wants, but you know, because he's hurt right now, this is what he's saying.
He's like emotionally hurt, and he's also physically hurt, and he's mentally exhausted, and he's hungry, and he, you know, I mean, just yeah. So he's just like, I cannot like with you at this moment right now. So
I think just to expand on that, I don't know if it's just that, but I think it's also it's more like, I think he's also showing us emotional intelligence as well, because like obviously this is a big change for Uła to take in like all of this new information, and for him just to continue to stay there, which is continue to antagonize her. But the part that he actually physically leaves to give her space as well, now she has time to digest everything and kind of start to form, you know, her own opinion based on what she's seen with her own 2 eyes. Because there is a point in a discussion where you said your piece, that's all you can do, and you're at a plateau. Like you're just going to make the situation worse if you just continue to stay there. So the fact that he leaves and gives her space gives her time to just do that reflection.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, Jess and I realized I miscalculated. There's only 1 panel left, sorry, because the browser shows like, I don't know, more space for like, the comments and the picture thing, so sorry.
That's okay. So you said there was a question period?
Oh yeah, but yeah, I guess the last panel just shows her sitting there alone in the tent.
She's alone. Yeah,
she's looking at the door. She's looking at the exactly clothing.
Looking at the door.
Like
she's thinking the wheels are turning.
Yeah. But I mean, also because she's naive, it's kind of also because she's not really in a seat of power at all in her kingdom, really, if she's like the youngest princess or whatever. So I mean, I don't think she's gone through her mind like, if I was in charge, what would I do? And you know, I mean, that's why I think her naivety shows in this episode a lot, because she's just so inexperienced.
She's scared too. Like what life and world experience has she had, right?
Yeah.
Like practically nothing. So all of this is all completely new to her.
They are in a very different position, and you know, he's the leader who has to actually go out to warfare, and he has to leave the country, and she isn't. She's more sheltered. And honestly, I think about this a lot. You know, we people criticize people who are in positions of power and leadership quite easily, and I think that until you're in that position, you can't really speak because you don't know what it's like. And sometimes, you know, there is no good decision, there's only the least bad decision. So you know, yeah, she's not in a position to understand what he does and how he is.
Yeah. Which is this panel really, because she's just sitting there thinking about it now that he's said it all. Yeah, so I guess you'll find out in the next episode how she reacts about that, but yeah.
Okay.
Stay tuned for next episode.
Stay tuned.
You could just read right now.
Just the title. Actually, I really like this. So You Want a Battle was this episode title, and the next one, Here's a War.
Ooh.
I thought that played in really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So you want to battle? I see that as coming from Ulaan, where he's like, okay, so you want to battle? You want to like hit me and call me bad? I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So any final thoughts before we wrap up and move on to the bonus content?
I don't have anything else. Like I had written notes, but we pretty much went over everything.
What did I write? I wrote like, oh, hair touch in all caps. I wrote so much chemistry. Ulaan is a rock star to his people. Oh, I wrote so many troglodyte men. Ulaan's respect for you, a woman, isn't the norm.
I should have wrote eyebrows because
Yeah, Nikki's ancestor.
yeah.
Oh my God.
So I'll end this recording and start another one for the bonus content.
Okay.